Hello everybody, thank you very much brothers and sisters for watching. I want to do a video, as the title suggests, as a watchman, that since Trump's peace deal, if there was any signs on the peace deal before and slightly after to show that God is not happy with Trump's peace deal, because it really is going to divide Israel, though he says it's not. Well, basically, Trump's long-awaited peace deal on the 28th of January 2020, after speaking to Gantz and Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister, he says here that he's setting up a committee to implement the peace deal. So it will go along. He says it's obviously a two-state solution, and they want to give £50 billion to the Palestinians as to help their economy. But obviously they're not happy about it. But he's really serious about this. To implement this, he's got a committee set up. He wants to, he's also asked the cabinet to approve annexing part of West Bank and Jordan Valley. Obviously the Palestinians are not happy about it, this two-state solution. Palestinians' capital, part of the deal, the Palestinians' capital is in the East Jerusalem, which is not part of the Old Jerusalem, old part of East Jerusalem, which is sacred to the Jews and Christians. So they won't give the old part, but they will give East Jerusalem, or they attain the old part and West. So obviously not happy. And I want to read a comment from a kind sister called Zeta Pal about this. Trump claims is not dividing Israel. She says, she quotes Isaiah 24:16. The treacherous leaders have dealt treacherously. Indeed, the treacherous dealers have dealt treacherously. Trump calls it the deal of the century and regards himself highly as a deal maker. He even wrote a book called The Art of the Deal. I think this deal is treacherous because they claim to not be dividing Israel, Jerusalem, but if you look into the details, they've already drawn up the map. This is it. If you look into the details, they are plain word games, because the deal requires Israel to share Jerusalem as a capital with the newly agreed upon state of Palestine's capital in East Jerusalem. As I said, acknowledging this, they will live among the Israelis as a sovereign state within Israel itself. Has to be regarded for them, acknowledging them living among the Israelites as a sovereign state within Israel itself would be regarded as dividing God's land. So that's, you see, they really are just playing word games. They are actually literally dividing God's land. So I want to give some examples what signs that shows that God wasn't happy about this. One such one was an earthquake. I'm going to talk about an earthquake and a meteorite. First of all, on the 23rd of January, we're talking about just 5 days before this so-called peace deal to divide Israel, really, there was a meteorite that was seen over Jerusalem, which exploded, and this whole sky got blue. I think I have a video here I will show you. On the 23rd of January, which is only 5 days before, as I believe is a warning. Also, this video will show also 24th of January, one day after this exploded meteorite over Israel, blue flash of light. One day after was an earthquake in Turkey, and this video from brother from Revelation chapter 12.com brother shows. Here it is.
Earthquake in Turkey. Again, Jesus told us all this. There'll be earthquakes, there'll be famine, there'll be pestilence. We've got famine in Yemen, we've got famine in Africa, we've got famine in Kenya, we've got famine in various places of the world. Of course, the first world places that are rich. And
this earthquake in Turkey was felt in Israel.
They've forgotten about the poor. They're the ones that are going to suffer in the tribulation. They're the ones. God's going to empty the stomach of the rich in the tribulation. But nevertheless, earthquake in Turkey also felt in Israel. Massive earthquake in Turkey, 20 people have died. And this earthquake was also felt in Israel. And that was a 6.8. That is a big earthquake. It says the whole building moved. That was it. Blue meteor flash through Israeli sky caught on car's dashboard camera. Jesus said there would be signs in the sky, and this one was over Israel. Look at that, guys. Look how beautiful and blue that is. I'll play the video so you can see the whole thing. Just turn the volume down. Wow, look at that. That's Israel, guys. Signs in the heavens over Israel. Jesus is coming to get us. Look. Woo-hoo! Oh, Yeshua, come on, Lord. We're waiting for you, Lord Jesus. Hallelujah. Look at that dazzling blue meteor flash through Israeli sky. Jesus is coming to get us. Okay, then next up.
See, two signs happened just 5 and 4 days before the peace deal, and both of them, as the brother showed, there. First of all, the blue flashing meteorite that exploded over Israel. I bet that was a sign, not to agree with Trump with dividing God's land. And then, just one day after that, there was, what do you call it, a 6.7 quake that hit Turkey. And listen to this, do you hear what the brother said? And then it was felt in Israel, 6.8. So this is just 4 days before the peace deal. So you've got two signs, the earthquake that shook Israel, and you got this flash meteorite, that flash blue exploded meteorite over Jerusalem. I heard that one also. There was one that flashed a meteorite exploded also on the same day over London and England. But I do remember also my wife, she said, she woke up one early one night at 4 a.m. and looked out the window in a dark night sky, and she saw 2 meteorites, one after the other, 2 shooting stars. And she said, it's strange, she said, they're not white as usual, they're blue. See, even my wife saw this, and this happened just slightly before even the one that blew over Israel, 23rd of January. These are all signs. I checked, if it was symbolic, this blue colour. Why would it be blue? I mean, it's not, usually it's a white or red. And I found out in the Bible, blue is to remind people to keep the commandments of God. Because, for instance, they had a garment with the fringe. They used to put a blue fringe. God told them to make a garment with a blue fringe, so every time you look at the fringe, the colour blue fringe, it will remind you to keep the commandments. Maybe God's saying, make sure, Israel, you keep my commandments. put me ahead. Look at me to help you. Don't look at people, and don't divide my land. Remember my commandments, and that is, do not divide my land. So all these signs and things. Was there any other things on the 27th of just one day before the peace deal? It was the closest conjunction in the heavens between Venus and Neptune. It says, which was in Aquarius, the constellation Aquarius, the closest Venus and Neptune conjunction, which occurred on the 27th of January, which was the closest since 1984. So and 2020 is now. So we're talking about quite a long time. Quite a long time. So, and also on the very day of the peace deal, the 28th of January, something really amazing was seen in the heavens, and me and my brother actually did a video about it. A star and crescent moon was seen. Occurred on the 27th, and over actually on the 28th, and just over the peace deal. And let me picture of what was seen in the sky above when he did the peace deal. A star, a bright Venus, and crescent moon. So, in other words, me and my brother did a video about it, not only recently. We believe it was a major sign that, basically it's a sign of Islam, because that's the sign on the Islamic flag, and it's connected with Turkey and the rise of Turkey, and I believe Gog, and the rise of the Islamic, movements. That's what I really believe. All these signs, and you can see exactly what's happening. Gog, Turkey, is actually, shown its true colours. I'll do a video about that. So what do you call it? And also any other. What do you call it? Is there any other signs on the very day? Also, not only was it a star and crescent moon over the peace deal, on the very, very day, Jamaica suffered an earthquake. There was an earthquake between Jamaica and Cuba, and the Caribbean Sea. Between Jamaica and Cuba, there was an earthquake, 7.7, quite strong, on the very day of the peace deal. And you know what? It was felt in America, in Miami. Yeah, actually felt in America, Miami. God is saying that He is not very happy about this. I'm not surprised there was a crescent moon and star, if it's symbolic of Islam, because it's exactly like an Islamic flag. Because this peace deal is infuriating the Palestinians, because there was a lot of demonstrations. It will just boost them to get together, the Islamic nations. I believe, like my brother Mike, he was put there to bring about judgment, and no one can get rid of him. They try the very best to impeach him. They tried twice. They can never get rid of him. He's been acquitted. So you see, he's been put there to infuriate, start the peace deal process, divide the land, and then pave the way for the Antichrist to come. So all these signs, and one day after, to show that God is not happy, multiple storms on the 29th of January, one day after the peace deal. Multiple storms brought heavy rain and trigger landslides in the US Pacific North. Can you believe that? Just one day after that, and then another day after that, on the 30th of January, just 2 days after that, South and Southwest Alaska, which is obviously part of Northern Territory of America, was hit by a cyclone bomb with storm force winds and flooding. You know, and not only that, even though I think another sign is, I live in the UK, and the Prime Minister always called off Brexit, UK to leave, EU. But it's a bit of a coincidence, like one brother said, they always called it off, changed, never left, but just 3 days after, UK left the EU, so it weakened the EU. Because England's one of the biggest contributors to the EU financially. My wife said, you never know, maybe it's God's way of splitting EU up, because they split Israel up. You see, all these signs, all these signs really, really show that if he goes along and actually does it, and he really is going to do it. He said, he's literally he's drawn out a map. Of course, it benefits Israel more, but it's a two-state solution, and they will divide the land, because he's got a committee set up to implement the plan. Boy, God won't be very happy about this. You just saw some signs over Israel, and like I said, there was an earthquake in Turkey that was felt in Israel just a few days before, and also natural disasters that hit America. On the very same day, an earthquake was felt in Miami, USA, on the very same day of the peace deal. But let me read some scriptures. Because it does say in 1 Thessalonians 5:3, when they say peace and safety, because this is what it's all about. Peace and safety for Israel, then sudden destruction. The destruction is when God, if they divide his land, like Joel 3, chapter 3, verse 2 says, he will bring judgment, bring them to the land, the valley of Jehoshaphat, valley of judgment, basically. Any nation that divides it, they're going to be judged. Also Israel for going along with it and not, listening to God and putting God first, but, listening to a man. Let's see what God said to Abraham. In Genesis 17 verse 7, and I will carry out my covenant between me and you and your seed after you according to their generations, for a covenant to time indefinite, to prove myself God to you and to your seed after you, and I will give to you and to your seed, that's Abraham, after you, the land of your alien residence, even the entire Canaan, the land of Canaan, for a possession to time indefinite, and I will prove myself God to them. And God said further to Abraham, as for you, you are to keep my covenant, you and your seed, and your according to their generations. And you are to keep my covenant, you and your seed after you, according to their generation. So this is my covenant that you men will keep between me and you, even every man, your seed and after me, and every male of yours. So you're meant to keep the covenant, and that is, what do you call it? The covenant was the land, the whole entire land of Canaan was given to God as a promise, and Abraham's meant to keep it, the whole, and that means from River Nile to the River Euphrates. This is all the whole land of Canaan. Israel's already got rid of some, but that's it. They're not meant, especially not divide Israel. And this is what God will do if anyone, or even Israel, divides the land when you're not supposed to. You're meant to keep it, as God said, to time indefinite. Galatians chapter 6 verse 7. This is quite blunt from God. Do not be misled. God is not one to be mocked. For whatever a man is sowing, this he will reap. Yeah, God is not one to be mocked. You can mock me, but don't mock God. When he says, "Do not divide my land," he means it, because that is, I believe, that's the trigger that will start the tribulation, judgment upon the earth, the four horsemen of World War III, whatever. All the judgments will occur, and I can see the white horse starting to trot, as it were, ready to the starting line, because of this peace deal. And Second Chronicles, as I said, God is not one to be mocked. You divide his lands, it's quite serious, as some brothers online have said. Second Chronicles chapter 36, from verse 11. 21 years old, verse 11, yeah. 21 years old was Zedekiah when he began to reign, and for 11 years he reigned in Jerusalem. And he continued to do what was bad in the eyes of God, Yahweh. He did not humble himself on account of Jeremiah the prophet at the order of Yahweh, and even against King Nebuchadnezzar he rebelled, who had made him swear by God, and he kept stiffening his neck and hardening his heart, so as not to return to God, of the God of Israel. Even all the chiefs of the priests and the people themselves committed unfaithfulness on a grand scale, according to all detestable things of the nations, so that they defiled the house of God, Yahweh, which had been sanctified in Jerusalem. And so, because of them, the priests and a lot of Israel and the king did some wickedness in God's eyes. God, and Yahweh, the God of their forefathers, kept sending against them by means of his messengers, sending again and again. He sent messengers to warn them, because he felt compassion for his people and for his dwelling. But you know what they did? They were continually making jests or mocking at the messengers of the true God, the prophets, and despising his words and mocking at his prophets until, listen to this, until his rage of Yahweh came up against his people, until there was no healing. So, as I said, what they did wicked things in God's eyes, and this is a very wicked act. Going to divide God's land, and loads of people, and like myself, I'm not as important as these messengers of the past or prophets, but I'm warning, like many others, do not divide the land. Even though God kept on sending them, warning people, And lots of people have warned not to divide God's land. God warns it, because but time and time again, they were mocked, laughed at. It says there, and made jest. It took no note, and you know what? It says here, God's anger came. This is what's going to happen. So I'm warning not to divide God's land, America and any nation. You can mock me, but don't mock God. Well, please anyway, if you haven't come to know Jesus Christ, Yeshua Mashiach, now is the time to do it, because the signs are getting very close to the Lord coming back, but also judgment. If they did actually, bring about the dividing of God's land and agree on a Palestinian state within Jerusalem, East Jerusalem, that will be it. The tribulation and God's judgment will come. Anyway, please put faith in Jesus Christ and repent for his name to be saved. Thank you very much.